Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do some animations in Unity. Basically, if you have a model that you want to bring in, you can just drag it from your file explorer into the actual project view down here. You can put it in whichever folder you like, drag in the textures with it as well. But you probably don't want to bring in the animations if they don't work. So basically just click on it down here, go to the animation tab, and then unclick the animations. If they do work, obviously great, and they'll come in here with a controller like this and a bunch of animations in this little file, depending on how many animations you've actually got named separately in there. But if you want to then have a texture, you should create, if you have multiple textures, you should go to right click anywhere, right on the blank bit of project, go to create and material, and then name it whatever you want to call it. And then when you go here, just drag your textures in the correct slot and then assign the actual material to your model in the mesh of the model. So something like this one here should have this. So when I drag it into the screen here, you just drag on the material that you want to use. So if I were to put my texture in here and then drag it onto this guy, you can see he's now got a texture on him. It's a bit of a weird texture, but there we go, here's his texture. He just looks a bit strange anyway by default. But yeah, that's the basics, and then obviously you can do the rest, and you can play with the sliders and whatever. So that's how to bring in your actual model. And then for the animations, I'm going to do one other thing here, which is create an empty, reset the transform, and basically I'm just going to use this as like the main root bone of this model. So I'll just call it alien or something like that, and then I'm going to just drag the model onto that, and then I'm going to reset the transform on that as well, just so they're in the same place, like their origins in the same place. But the reason for this is because if you see this blue arrow, this is forwards in Unity, and right now he's facing the opposite direction. So what I want to do is I want to just get my model and rotate him around so that he's facing the correct way. But you can see the blue arrow for him is now going this way, whereas the blue arrow for this is now going this way. And so if I tell the actual root that I just created to go forwards, it will go forwards and actually look like he's moving forwards. But I'm going to just rotate the entire thing back around so that I just find it easier to animate in this direction rather than the other direction. So to create an animation, we're going to make sure that he doesn't have one. So we're going to remove this from here because we don't want to be fighting against two animations. We're going to go to here and we're going to go to the animation window, and we're going to create an animation, and we're going to name the actual animation itself here. So I'm going to just overwrite this run animation because I haven't actually done anything with it. And then that will, as you can see here, automatically assign a controller, an animator and a controller to him, which is why we needed to remove the other one on this here because it will not like it. And then we're going to hit the record button. And you do need to make sure that whatever you had selected will obviously get that. So for this, we're doing it on the root now. So we're going to hit record, and we're going to basically just move him a tiny bit, and then we can instantly put him right back again. And I'm just going to reset all of these to 0 so that it doesn't matter about the movement. But it's basically just to get the starting frame here. And then this is the timeline scrubber, so this is in seconds. This is half a second and this is 1 second. So I'm just going to go to half second just to get a rough position. Actually, what I'm going to do is, because we're doing a run animation, what I'm going to do is start a little bit differently. So we want to find the bones that we want to be moving, and we're just going to move those around. So I'm holding control, and I'm just using this rotation circles to move around. You'll get used to which one's which, but basically I'm using the green one here. And I want to move the calf a little bit too. Okay, that's fine. And that's all I'm going to do for this. Then I'm going to go to half a second, and I'm going to move that back to the middle. So this is obviously going to be a really bad animation, but it'll be an animation. That'll be fine. Let's do the calf. Okay, and then we're going to go back to the first one. We're going to copy that, move to the second, and paste it so that it loops correctly. Then we're going to stop recording, and if I press play now, there we go. We've got a basic leg movement. Simple as that. We've got legs running in, a couple of minutes basically. And the nice thing about this is if I were to find my foot, for instance, and I wanted to just right click and create a cube there for some reason, let's just scale that down like so. Let's just move it this way. It looks like a bit like a shoe now, and if I press play, straight away that cube is just automatically moving and animating with it perfectly fine. I didn't change anything in the animation. I didn't even need to be in the animation window. It's just automatically going to be assigned to this until I tell it otherwise. So that's one really cool thing. So the next thing we're going to do is show you how to do other animations and link between them. So perhaps we're going to go and create a new one. Let's call it jump. Okay. So we're going to go back to our main object here. We're going to start recording, and we're just going to move him up and down again so that he's back at 0, but we're just going to get our first frame again. Then we're going to go to here, and what I'm going to do for this one, I think, is probably move him down, bend his legs a little bit so that he's going to be crouching, getting ready to jump, sort of thing. Which one do I want? Don't want this open really. Let's just close that. Okay. Oop, down. Okay, that's fine. That will be the starting point. And then for the next bit, we're going to move him up. I'll do that with the actual base, I think will be fine, so that we know it's going to go straight up. That might be a bit too far because I was holding control at the time. Let's just move him back down a little bit. Okay, and then we'll straighten out those legs. I think I may have broken his spine bone a little bit there when I moved it, but it's fine, whatever. It's gonna be, it's not really important for this demonstration. I'll tell you what I want to do actually, let's move the legs a bit straighter though. Okay, yeah, it looks really weird right now because I moved the spine. It's sort of, I want to move the camera please. It's strange, this one. Let's delete that one. That's better. Okay, and tell you what I'll do is I'll go back to this frame and move the alien itself down. There we go, that's better. So now you can see he goes down and then he jumps up. And I can drag and move these. As long as you move the top one, he'll get down faster and then spring up. So down and then up. Okay. And then obviously we want it to loop around. So let's just move that one over so that he actually comes back down. Okay, that seems fine. So we'll stop recording this and press play just to see it in action. Okay, nice and simple animation, but there we go. Right, so now that we've done these, if we go to the animator window, we will now be able to see them. And you'll see one of them, the first one that you made or that is in the list of animations when you import will have an arrow to it straight away. And that's like the one that the game will be running automatically. So if I were to go into the game view, let's just move the camera this way so it's a bit more focused on him. I just need to move it forward, I think. Okay, let's just, nope, not that one, I want the red one. Okay, that'll be fine. If I press play now, you'll see he's just going to walk. And he does nothing else, or run, whatever. But he won't jump. And that's because this arrow here is literally only going to run, and there's no arrow to go to jump. So he doesn't know when to jump. So if you just wanted to show off a whole list of animations, one after the other, all you need to do is right click on the one you want to go from, click make transition, and then left click on the one you want to go to, and that's it. So if I were to press play now, let me just, okay, I can't move the window, hang on, let's get rid of this stats, there we go. So he'll do a run and then he'll jump, and then he's going to get stuck in jump because there's no transition out of jump. So if we got to the end of the list and wanted to go back to the start, we just right click on that, go to make transition and go to run. And now he'll run, jump, jump. Okay, nice and simple. But for this example, obviously, we're not going to want to just jump all the time, and we're probably going to be wanting to run continuously while we're not jumping. So what we do is we click on the actual arrow that's going from the run to the jump, and we'll get a different window here. And what we're going to do is we need a condition as to when we should do this jump. So if we look back at the animator, we have a little plus sign here, and we're going to click that. And for this, I just want a little trigger. So basically a one-time thing that will happen. It can happen multiple times, but it's only going to be true for one single frame. So in this case, like if we press down the space bar, that's going to be like the instant we press the space bar, it will trigger. So we're going to just call this jump. Okay, and it's going to be false to start with because obviously we're not jumping as soon as we start the game. So it's just going to leave that empty. And then when we go to the conditions, we're going to now see that we can press the plus and it will say jump. If we have multiple of these things or different setups here, we will be able to press this down button and select the one we want. But we're just going to press jump, and then we're going to remove the exit time. And we're not going to worry about anything else right now, but we do need to actually trigger this trigger, in a sense, because right now it's still always going to be false. So we need a little script that tells it when it's going to be true. So if we go back to the alien and we add component here, and we're going to call it, we're just going to call it jump as well. And okay, it automatically called it jump script, so let's try that again. I want to call it just jump. I made one before which was called jump script, which I confused it, but we're gonna do a new one. Okay, so now that it's added, we can double click on it to open it up, and you will need Visual Studio for this. My one's going to give me an error in a second, but we can ignore that. Okay, and then when it loads, it should open it automatically, but because of the error, mine's actually not going to. And I'm going to close this one because that's not the right one. So you can find it over in the right here. You go to the first one, go to Assets, and then find the script name that you found, that you made, and we're going to call it Jump. It was called Jump. So basically this works the same way as Lua does in Game Guru, where you have your init function and your main function, but they're just named slightly differently. But this is basically the functions, and they're separated with these like colon things. I don't know what these are called, weird brackets. So what we want to do firstly is have a reference to the animator that we want to be interacting with. So this animator controls the animations that we're seeing here in this animator window, and because it's assigned to this object, we know which one it's going to be dealing with in this case. So we're going to go public animator, not animation. It is a bit weird, but we don't want to be dealing with the animation itself, we want to deal with the animator, and you can tell that because it's called animator here. If we were dealing with anything to do with positioning or scale, we would be dealing with transform. And if we were dealing with anything to do with the actual script itself, that would be jump, because of what it's called. And then we just need to give it a name that we're going to now use to access it in the script itself. So I'm just going to call it anim for animator or animation, whatever. And then we just need to get a little bit of code to say, well, when should we do this? So basically, like I said, we're going to use the space bar for this example. So we're going to do if, and I mean, don't worry too much about syntax. You'll just get used to it. But we want the input, which is a Unity sort of code. Dot space. Okay. So if key down, get key down is like that one frame when you press the spacebar, and then, or any button technically, but we're using keycode dot space, which is the code for the spacebar. We could have used keycode dot A for the A key, or up arrow for the upwards arrow key, and all that stuff. It's already in there in the list, so you can just scroll down and find the one you're looking for, but we're going to use space in this example. And basically what I want to do now is, this is where I want to talk to this animator, so I'm going to use anim dot and then set trigger, and that's because we created a trigger variable in this list here, and because we've called it jump, we're going to use that name jump. Did I use it a capital? Is that a capital? Yeah, I think it was. I'm not sure. We'll find out. And basically that's it. So basically it's just saying trigger or activate that trigger. So if I save this now, go back to Unity, we don't need to worry about any object numbers or anything like that, because what we'll do is, here now it says none animator inside the script bit, and basically we just need to drag and drop the animator that we want to talk to into that slot. And so obviously the script and the animator don't need to be on the same object, they can be separated, but you do need to make sure that you're dragging in the actual animator that you want to be interacting with. So if I press play now, you'll see it's running and it's not triggering the jump, but if I press space, he jumps. and then it goes back to the run automatically because it only set that trigger to call once. So if I press space, he jumps. If I press space, he jumps. If I press space, he jumps. If I keep pressing it, it doesn't like keep resetting this. It waits till it gets to the end, and then if I press it again, so it's only during the run cycle that he's actually able to trigger that jump automatically, and it just automatically goes back to the running. And a nice thing that we will be able to see here is if I go to this view and press space, you will see that the legs don't just snap into position, they actually move forward. It's quite fast right now, but it does actually transition nicely between the two. Unlike Game Guru, which would be a snap from one to the other, like the leg will not move from this position to this position. It will just disappear in this position and reappear in this position. I mean, it's a very subtle thing, but for some animations, it's very noticeable. And that can be adjusted with the transitions here. Let's just stop right now. And that is what these this blue bar here does. So if I were to drag this back this way, let's just try that. I think we might end up jumping twice at this point. So we want to remove this one, so that it should transition there. I think that's better. Let's just go back to this one. So you can see now it's more of a, he continues to try and run and then sort of jumps up. And I think that's actually not quite what I want for this one, so let us try that. Yeah, that's still too fast. Yeah, that's better. So you can see if you watch this leg here, and then I press space while it's right at the back, it still sort of moves forward. And obviously the same is true for the back leg as well, into that bend position. And that's just done with moving around this transition here. And obviously the further you go with the blue bar, then the more of the first animation it will play, and as it slowly blends into the second one, and then obviously the less will be more of an instant snap. So if I do it now, it just snaps into that jump position. And I had to remove this one because this, obviously when we finish jumping, we don't want to actually play the jump again. So if I were to drag this out like this, you will now jump twice. Or he sort of tried to there. You can sort of see, thought about jumping again, which we don't want, because we don't, once we've done the jump from the run to the jumping, we don't want to jump again on the way to transition back into running. A bit confusing, but basically we want a very slim transition in this bit here, because we will have already done the jump when we were transitioning from running to jumping. I think by default it kind of has it in about 50-50. But yeah, if you want to smooth out the transitions, just play around with that. And that's pretty much all you really need to worry about for the most part. Okay, yeah, it's snapping a bit nasty there on the way back down. So we'll just kind of smooth that a little bit more. Still a little bit off. That's better. At least it looks like he's actually buckling down when he lands as well, which is kind of cool. And then he starts running. And obviously, you can tweak the animations as much as you like to make them look better. Perhaps you want him to sort of stumble a bit when he lands or whatever. That's all perfectly fine. You can even do that as a whole separate animation and then blend from the jumping into the stumble and then back into the run, whatever. But yeah, that's the basics of how to do an animation chain in Unity. And the same is true if you import an object. You still have to set up the transitions if you want to be able to do them manually with scripting and such.